Hi everybody. We welcome our viewers in Barbados and around the world to another edition of Face It and Fix It on CBC TV 8, YouTube, and of course Facebook. I'm Joyanne Haigh. Now today is May 30th. It marks the day of International Multiple Sclerosis Day, the day that awareness is made to this particular disability. And I have on the phone, because I wanted to start my intro by wishing them happy MS Day, and the president of the MS Association, Mrs. Maria Holder Small, is actually on the line. Good morning, Maria.
Hi, good morning, Joyanne.
Maria, are you there?
Yes, please. I'm trying to hear you as well as I can.
I'm here
by the sea with the waves breaking, looking so beautifully. So maybe you can join us and enjoy some of this team.
Girl, be there
today.
like 12:30. I'll be there. But
okay.
If you have social media some data on your phone, and I don't use it too much of it, I have a surprise for you, and the association, showing respect and for the day, and for members of the association. We have your logo placed on my right on the screen for everybody to see today, and it will be there for the entire show for the full 2 hours.
Beautiful, beautiful. I will tune in.
And as promised, if you can see me now, girl, I am the brightest orange inside shirt ever.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this support as a society, multiple sclerosis society. I know everybody.
Society. I always.
Yeah.
But that's okay, society.
Yes, society.
But again, have a great day. I want your members to also have a fantastic day, and remember the theme: I connect, we connect. And
Thank you so much.
Moving forward, we are connected, and we will make sure we will do everything possible to make sure that the MS Society will be included in everything that we do, and that the playing field is as level as it can be going forward.
We really appreciate that, Joyanne. Heartfelt thanks from all of the members. Today, the Minister Humphrey will be passing through the Barbados Coast Guard through the Defense Force. They will be coming to give our members assistance to go into the beach. So the members are all along here excited in their orange shirts, and just really, really happy to be out on this special day. So we thank you.
Well, what you can do, just take a picture if you can, send it to our producer, because I know you know how to contact her. Send it via WhatsApp, and we want to put it up during the show, show everybody what a good time you're having, and the members. Okay?
All right. Okay, much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Maria. Have a fantastic day.
And see you later, hopefully.
God willing, of course, yes.
All right.
All right?
Okay.
Bye-bye for now. Well, that is a great way to start our show, Face It and Fix It, as we continue to support as many organizations as they encounter the challenges that, especially the disabled community, that they face every day. It is our pleasure to assist them in any way that we can. Today on Face It and Fix It, we have our attorney at law, Mr. Mark Ford. He joins us with answers to the questions that you would have posted, shared with us for the last couple of weeks, and by popular demand, he is back. We also have Associate Actuary and VP Clarity Insurance, NIKITA GIBSON, shares her knowledge and expertise with you to help you navigate these current financial stressful times that we are all in, and I'm quite looking forward to that segment. And we also have Chief Inspector of the Barbados Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, BSPCA, Mr. Wayne Norville. He highlights some of the cruel practices he sees on a day-to-day basis with people who encounter stray animals. I know we've seen some videos, horrible videos of what people do to some animals just right here in Barbados, to monkeys, to dogs, etc. So if we obviously may have a problem with that, and we want to hear from him what we can do and as Barbadians to help sort of fix that problem. As always, call us 228-5563 or 228-5562. If you are watching us via Facebook, you can leave your comments there, and we certainly will share them with you. When we come back, we are going to start the show with attorney at law Mark Forde. So get your questions, because we got a lot of questions from before that we have to fit in, and we'll see how many questions we get answered in this first segment when we come back. Testing 1, 2, 3. Ruel.
Yeah. Yes, can you hear me?
Caller, can
Yes,
you hear
ma'am.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We have attorney Mark FORDE with us. We had some technical problems, but we're back. Mark?
Yes, Joyanne.
So
Are we on the same page, sound and vision?
I like to think so. We're there. One or two little
Okay.
issues in my ear
Yes.
right now, but this is the way of the world right now as far as COVID is concerned. We have to use the technology in a different way. And even CNN, sometimes we watch it and it freezes and people have to go to break. So that's expected in these times, but we have it rectified. So we do have some messages that will come up on the screen shortly, but I also have a question until we get the messages up. When families are together and there's the Succession Act that we spoke about the last time we spoke, and some family members are not interested in receiving anything, do they have to write a letter stating that they have no interest in order for that to happen, or they can just walk away?
Well, no. Normally, you see, the human being is a very strange creature. And sometimes people say one thing today, and tomorrow they say something else. Am I right?
True.
We all know that. So, or next week, or next month, or next year. So what we do as attorneys, we engage a little instrument called a deed of family arrangement. And in that deed of family arrangement, we outline what what is requested at that point in time by the persons who are entitled under the estate of the deceased. So pardon me. So if Mary says, you know what, I'm good, I don't need anything, and then John says, you know what, I'm in the same boat, I have 2 houses already, I don't need anything. Let the 2 of us leave it all to Peter. So, and Peter says, okay, fine, because Peter doesn't have much. I'm just giving an example, of course. So the lawyer drafts something called a deed of family arrangement, stating the facts, including the deceased died on such and such a date, leaving a will or not leaving a will, and letters testamentary were granted and issued on such and such dates, and whereas John indicates that he is no longer interested in any entitlement, and Mary does the same thing, and they have both agreed that they would leave everything to Peter, and everybody signs that deed. You see, so that solidifies what was stated verbally.
For the transition of the individual in question? In other words, can that paper be signed before the person transitions, before the person dies?
No.
It has to happen after.
Right. Yeah. Yes. We're assuming here, because remember, Joyanne, succession, what we commonly call estates. Succession is about the death of a person. What happens after that? So we are saying that granddad dies and let's say dad dies and he did not leave a will. That means that a spouse and children are the persons entitled up front. Let's say there's no spouse. She has passed on. So there are 3 children, for example. And so they're equally entitled, those 3 children, they're equally entitled. But one might say, listen, I ain't got much. Y'all will leave what y'all have. What's left for you all for me? Or maybe the 2 of them say, you know what, let's leave it to Peter. So we're talking after death now of the deceased. And 2 of the beneficiaries say, hey, let's leave it to Peter. So a lawyer says, I'll draft a deed of family arrangement, and that will solidify what the 2 of you want, and Peter will get. So then let's say there is then a house. So then the next step is to draft what's called an assent out of the estate, is a conveyance out of the estate to Peter. All goes to Peter. And that deed of family arrangement is recorded at the land registry, just like the deed of assent.
Failing
Yeah.
that, then there's a big fight, usually after the death. If somebody changes their mind, as you said, and they don't do the relevant paperwork.
It's best to protect everybody and to protect yourself as an attorney.
Oh, okay. So we have some questions there coming in. I will read them out, and I believe that they will be shared on the screen as well. First question: what are the ways a landlord can evict a tenant legally?
Right. So, but the first thing he does is he drafts a notice to quit. Well, he or his lawyer drafts a notice to quit. If the tenant is a monthly tenant, you must give that person at least a month's notice before you can ask them. So in the notice to quit, you put a date, and that date must be minimum a month's notice. If it's a weekly paid tenant, you must give them. Pardon me, must give them at least a week. Even though I know that sounds very short to you, Joya.
Very.
But yes, yeah. Even to me it sounds short, but that's the law. So you give the notice to quit. If the person does not quit the premises after the expiration of that date, then you have to issue a second notice called a notice of intention to apply to a magistrate for eviction. That's commonly called a 10-day notice, right? Refer then to the notice to quit within that document. If the person does not move at that point in time, you make that application to the magistrate to put the person in court and let the matter be heard in court if he or she does not quit the premises at that somewhere in between that time before the court date. That's the legal way of evicting a person.
All right. Thank you for that answer.
Out, but
Say again?
You're welcome. No, I said it could be a little bit drawn out. And I know that sometimes a lot of people feel, a lot of landlords, of course, including landladies, feel a little bit hard done by that, especially if it's a money issue whereby the person has not been paying rent for a long time. You know?
Yes.
And sometimes that rent is needed to pay the mortgage.
For sure. There's a lot of that right now going on, especially with COVID and job loss. And I know people not pay their rent for months, and landlords are finding it very difficult to pay their mortgage because it also impacts them. This question says, can you leave your possessions to a niece and not your children? Will my children be able to fight that order, that will?
Good. So I'm glad you said that will, because sometimes, you know, so many of us, almost any lawyer in certain amount of years practice will tell you that it is not infrequent that someone will come before you and they will say, oh, my great aunt leave this house for me, but there's nothing in writing at all, which means there's nothing left for you.
Okay.
Right? Now, having said that, so I'm assuming that there is a will, and nothing was left for the children, but to a niece. A testator has what we call a testator, the person making a will, has what we call testamentary freedom, Joyanne. You can leave what you have for whomever you so desire, provided that your children are all over 18 years old. They're what I like to call big hardback men and women with jobs, or even not with jobs. And so what I'm saying is, you can't leave out minors. You can't legally leave out a minor child, let's say 12. And you can't leave out a spouse legally, right? So they have certain entitlements in spite of the testator's testamentary freedom. You also cannot legally leave out a child who is mentally or physically incapacitated, especially if that child depended on you. It was a dependent. You see? So if everybody is A-OK, let's say you have 3 grown children, everybody is mentally and physically well, and there's no spouse, and you want to leave your assets to your niece, you have the freedom so to do.
Okay. And beyond contestation, in other words, once there is a will, that's it. The Succession Act would not come into place then, obviously, if there's a will.
Well, normally not, as long as the will, of course, is valid.
Okay. We can get to that question about the different types of wills before we move on to that, because we have another question here about car parks and the signs that we see in car parks. They said here about the place not being liable and you're parking at your own risk. What if one of their carts, I guess they're probably talking about supermarkets, shopping malls, etc., damages the car, or even a piece of the building damages your car? What then?
I remember, Joyanne, when I was doing my bachelor laws a few years ago, and I coming across this case in the very well-known contract law book, saying that oftentimes these signs aren't worth what they're written on. Because I think oftentimes, and the literature, I think, upholds what I'm going to say, it is a defense put forward before an action is taken against the company. So in other words, you put this as a defense and say, we're not responsible, or worse to this effect, for any damage to any vehicle, no matter how caused, which is kind of crazy. Or all cars or vehicles, are parked at owner's risk, whatever that means. Now, most of the cases are what we call ticket cases that you do find. Now, where you might go, you park, you pay, and then you get a ticket. Usually on the back of that ticket are certain terms and conditions. Not always, but are certain terms and conditions that you agree to. So you form a contract. In this particular case now, we would realize that many of the supermarkets, they have a large car park, and you come there, you don't pay money yet, but they are practically inviting you, and this to me is a critical part, they're inviting you to come and park in their car park to do business in their establishment. Yeah? So you park. Now, if your car is damaged, and you can prove that your car was damaged through some act of a worker from the, let's say a trolley was pushed out by a worker, and it damages your car. To me, you have a case against the establishment. They are the occupiers, and to a large extent, in my opinion, it will fall under what you call occupiers' liability. They invited you to park in the car park. You follow me? So it's not a contract per se. It's not a contract per contract, because there's certain rules that go with making a contract. But in this case, you are invited to park, you park, you go and do business, you come back and find your car damaged, right? Now, if your car is damaged by the person next door, that parked next to you, to me, you have an action against that person. It reminds me, I was by Sky Mall recently, and as I went back to my car, I saw a note on the car, under the wipers of the car next to me, and it was very kind. The person said, "I hit and damaged your car. Please call me at such and such a number so that this can be resolved." That was very kind. That means a perfect thing to do. And I would like to think that anyone, and that's what I would do, Joya, and I would like to think anyone within my earshot, or anyone that hits another person's car, dents it, or whatever, breaks a wing mirror, whatever, would leave a number, because obviously the person couldn't search through the whole of Sky Mall to find out who this car belongs to. So,
But
so
I will love his number, car number. Anytime I park, I'll be looking out for him. Make sure I'm next to him in case. So honest, because people have damaged
right.
twice. I've had my car damaged over the years, and you know,
Yeah,
nobody
it's
says anything.
unfortunate that nobody says anything. There are those people, right? However, I think that they can't just put a carte blanche notice saying, no matter how your car is damaged, we are not at fault. I don't see that. And the literature, from what I read, doesn't support it either. So it's a defense put up earlier clock saying, gee, my car get damaged, I know all this is at me. You understand? Now, the whole thing about a building, a piece falling off the building, well, that's more straightforward. It is rare, I would think. It's possible. But if it does, well, then it's not your fault. It is the company's fault.
What about the
Really.
trees that in the car park that you may just go under a tree and a branch comes down,
Same
or the
thing.
tree falls?
Same thing. It's their trees. It's their trees. You are invited to park. There's a rectangle there for you to park under the tree. If something falls and damages your car, in my opinion, you have an action against them. Yeah?
Okay.
That's-
Well, falling down on the premises to or outside in the car park and sliding down would be also, they would have to accept liability?
Well,
if I slide down
that's
inside
a-
the Sky Mall or any mall,
But inside
outside.
the mall, inside, that's different. Outside now, you know the rain is falling, but a sign doesn't have to be put up saying it's wet. So that's a little trickier, because now you may decide you run into your car, so you know how it is with some beaches, Joya,
in
they
a
don't
pair of
wanna get
rubber
wet.
slippers.
In a pair of rubber slippers, they don't want to get wet and they fall. I do not see that. I do not see what we call prima facie on the face of it, that the supermarket, for example, the store is liable. I don't see that. To me, you should be more careful walking. I
Okay.
don't see that on the face of it.
Okay, fair enough. Can your attorney explain the different types of wills?
Right. So let's go straight to what is required in the making of a will to make it valid. First thing, you must be 18 years or older. Right? You must be of sound mind. Right? You must have what we call testamentary capacity. You must be mentally capable of making a will. This is why, and I'll say this now, most lawyers who might have a client, let's say over 80, some use 70, some use 75, say, I want to make a will. They require and request their client to get a note from their doctor saying that they're mentally capable to make this will. What it does, it protects them, it protects you, the attorney, right? And it really, if the person is deemed capable, then it prevents, well, I can't say prevents, but it might stop some family members from saying, oh, she was senile, you know, she or he, Hannah, they didn't have the mental capacity to make no will, you know. Now, a person can come forward, they can try to make a claim, but it might just be wasting money. Just like somebody that I know very well, and they end up having to pay a bill of $40,000 because they felt they were entitled and they lost the case.
Wow.
Yeah. So don't be greedy.
That's the key. Don't be greedy. We got to move through some of these questions because there's one in particular I can't wait to hear the answer.
Joanne,
say
I
again?
didn't really answer your question fully. I didn't answer your question. If you want me to complete
Go ahead.
the answer. Right. So, and the will must be in writing. It must be signed at the bottom of the will. Usually, suppose it's a 3-page will. I have people sign. Everybody signs at the bottom of each page, so that nothing can be put on at the bottom of that page. But it must be signed by the testator at the bottom of the will, and it must be witnessed by two persons present at the same time at the testator's direction. They're the witnesses to his signature. They don't have to know what's in the will, they just have to see him sign it. So those are the basics of a will. Now, there are different types of wills. Now, having stated what I just stated, there are things called privilege wills, where a soldier, for example, in the line of battle, he must be just about at war. He doesn't have to be in battle at that point in time, but he must be engaged in some military conflict. He is allowed to make a will in his handwriting. He doesn't even have to sign it because he doesn't know if he might get out of that particular battle or that war. So if it is in his known handwriting, he can make a will and it will be accepted by the authorities. The same goes to something called mariner's will, people that might be in battle at sea. So the same thing goes, what we call a holograph will. You can write it out in your own known handwriting, and that will be accepted.
Okay, so we covered on the types of wills.
Right. There's also something called a mutual will, where a husband and wife can make or just about exactly the same will because they own the same things, and they can. Whoever dies first, the other will would take precedence. So let's say the only thing that changes would be the names in there of the testator. I did only one of those in my practice, right? Because it's rare, but it's possible.
Okay,
right?
we have a caller that we want to get in. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. How long after
Go ahead.
How long after someone dies should the property be distributed?
Could you repeat that?
How long does it take for the property to be distributed after the person dies?
How long will it take after a person dies for a property to be distributed?
Okay, the first thing that has to happen is that an application has to be made to the court registry. For if the person left a will, an application has to be made for letters testamentary. You cannot, no property, whether it's real property or whether it's personality, which means like paintings or cash or whatever, can be distributed or given to anyone without getting letters, at least not legally, without getting letters testamentary if there's a will, or letters of administration if there is no will. So if the person dies with no will, someone, usually a person related to and there's a pecking order, as I said on our last occasion, Joyanne, to do that, who can come forward. Spouse first, children after, right? Who can come forward and make an application. That's why you see those probate advertisements in the newspaper. And after that, then you put in an application. Usually a lawyer has to do that for you. And you get letters of administration, which is really only one sheet of paper.
Can I ask you, Mark, you said spouse first, children after?
Spouse, in other words, if someone, let's say a deceased dies, someone dies, leaving no will. If there's a will, there must be an executor named in the will. That executor goes forward. That executor could be a friend, it could be a family member, whatever. That's your choice as a person making a will. A testator, if the person dies leaving no will, then usually the person's coming forward to apply for letters of administration of that person's estate. There's a pecking order. Spouse is the first person that usually can come forward. After the spouse, children, any one of the children can come forward. Usually they have to produce a birth certificate with the parent's name on it though. After that, it will be mother or father and then brother and sister that can apply for letters of administration. That's what I meant. Who can apply? So your friend down the road can't just come forward and say, oh, I'm going to apply for letters of administration. He did owe me some money.
So spouse also meaning common law?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and common law spouse, so that they have lived together for 5 or more years, right? Immediately preceding the death of the deceased. That's important. So they must be living together at the point in time when that person would have died.
All right. I want to change it from wills, even though we have one or two, but there's a question here that I certainly know that a lot of viewers who are in the social media world would love to know. Can I sue some person lying about me on Facebook? Who do I go to sue?
Well, you go to an attorney. And usually now there's something called the Computer Misuse Act, whereby, because it has become more and more common for persons to say things on Facebook or Twitter or whatever about other persons that may be defamatory. Now, I think the person used the word lying, right? Telling
Yes,
lies.
yes,
Now,
lying.
for something to be defamatory, it has to be untruthful. So, like I said, if somebody said that Mary works on Bush Hill, and it is true, it cannot be defamatory because it has what we call the defense of justification because it is true. No.
So I could
If
put
a
some pictures of Mary on Bush Hill if I like?
Well, she was there. If she was there and she's dressed a certain way and hanging out with certain other people, and you just take a picture, well,
And
then
post it.
and post it. Well, then she was there. There's a truth in that, isn't there? No, it may not mean that she's a working girl, but that's a matter of
visiting a friend?
she must be visiting a friend at 2:00 in the morning.
I think we have a call. Yes, let me just take this call quickly. Let's take this call quickly. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I'm trying to find out if my mom died and she leaves land and is not in a will. What I want to know is, can a niece or nephew be put on what he called the one he mentioned that everybody names goes on it. I'm trying to clarify that. He mentioned it before.
The will?
When there's children involved in the property and the mom dies, she leaves the land. He mentioned it just now. There were names he said.
We talked about
the deed of family arrangement.
Pardon me?
The deed of family arrangement, is that it?
No, it wasn't.
No, she said
All right, tell us exactly what you...
Okay, when you go to the lawyer and you have written paper done up, there's what? Children first and then anybody else after?
She means the pecking order?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be
the
it.
pecking order. Right. All that says is that in the act, in the Succession Act, not anyone can go forward. Not any and everybody can go forward. There is a what we call a pecking order, meaning that a spouse has the right to go forward first to make an application where there is no will. After her, adult children can go forward to make that application. I'm sorry?
Right. No, that's not the one. The one I want to find out, okay, your mom died, she had children, and then I understand the grandchildren, and so, okay, she has children. One daughter died, and I understand she becomes next of kin because the one of the daughters of the parent died, which is the mother. Okay? If you're understanding me.
Wait a minute. The mom dies. I've got that part. Mom dies.
Yes.
She has children. She has children.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead
then
from
one
there,
of the
please.
daughters of the deceased mom dies.
Yes. Oh, one of the daughters dies, yes.
And she has a daughter. Where does the daughter stand in also going forward?
Granddaughter.
So the daughter has a daughter.
Yes, there's the granddaughter that she's talking about.
Yes.
Where does she stand now in terms of the property, seeing that the mother of the deceased died?
Right. Okay. So when the original deceased person, who is now a grandmother,
Right.
dies, the daughter would naturally be entitled. We're assuming there's no will. The daughter
Right.
would
Correct.
naturally be entitled, right? But if
Yes.
the daughter dies before the estate is settled, then her child or children will be entitled to her share of the
Okay.
estate.
Okay. So where
You
does they come
see?
in? Where does they come in? Along with the children, which is the of the original grandmother, or they comes after? Where does the grandchildren lie?
Do the
I'm,
children have any, if there's no will, is this what it is? There's no will?
Yes.
it's no
Yes.
will,
Okay, there's no will. So
right?
mother dies, grandmother dies, the daughter dies, which is the daughter of the
Right.
grandmother, and leaving now the
Right.
grandchildren.
Right. Right. So the grandchild would be entitled to what would have been left for her
The
mother,
mother,
Right. Okay.
right?
So where?
Because the mother has gone. So
Okay.
what she received now would devolve unto her children or child.
Okay.
You
So
see?
it doesn't matter. So she will go into the letters of administration as well. Then that's the one I want to say.
No, she
Letters of
doesn't go into the
administration.
letters of administration. All the letters of administration would do is to give the administrator or the administratrix, the person that is qualified to distribute the estate, that would give them the right to give unto the grandchild what her mother would have received. Now,
Okay.
if it is real property, you cannot own real property in Barbados, that is land or house, until you're 18. So you have to be held in trust for the grandchild if she's a minor. Am I clear? Or
Yes. Yes, I get it. Thank you very much.
thank
yes,
you.
all right. You're welcome.
So, Mark, you were wrapping up about Mary and possibly hanging out at Bushel, and someone takes a picture of her and puts it on social media, implying that Mary may be a lady of the night.
Right.
Maybe she is, but suppose she ain't want everybody know about her business.
Well,
But you
then
put it
she
out.
has the right. She has the right, like anyone else, to come forward and make a claim against the person posting the picture, right? But if the person, for example, just posts a picture, I think she may have a hard time proving. No, in other words, suppose you post a picture, but you say nothing. You don't say, well, look at that dirty dog. You understand? So you post a picture, and that's all you say, right? The person that has the picture taken of them may have a hard time saying, well, look, bring action against the poster of the picture and be successful. You can bring it, but I'm not sure how successful they will be. But to answer your original question, if a person defames another person on Facebook or some other social medium, then the aggrieved person has a right to bring under the Computer Misuse Act. And there have been a couple of cases in Barbados, where persons have been found liable for doing such under the Computer Misuse
Let me
Act.
ask you a quick question here. Somebody
Yeah.
steals someone's money. Let's just say you bought something from somebody and it wasn't a good product or something, and they decide to blast you, the store or the individual, on social media. Now, it is true that they took your money, and it is true you bought a product from the store or the individual, and it didn't work. But some people just go to social media and say, listen, I bought it from store A, don't go in there because I bought this and it didn't thing, or I was treated with disrespect, or something like that, or an individual. People sell things on the street, secondhand, and you vex because you spend $1,000 and this product ain't working, you can't get back your money. Can I go to Facebook and vent and call names for something that actually happened?
But you see, if you said to me, right, if let's say with the store, you bought something from a store, it didn't work or didn't work well. What gives you the right to go and blast this store? Because that may have been an item that just was a one-off item. The store did not intentionally, to the best of our knowledge, sell you a defective item. Did you go back to the store? That your first port of call will be the store, not to go and blast them on Facebook, because to me that could very well be defamatory. You are bringing the store to disrepute without what we call without more, without anything really to back it up except you bought a defective item. Hold your horses, go back to the store and say, I bought this item and it's not working, you know, or the shoe heel drop off.
We
or
call
some
those
such
COVID
thing.
shoes, by the way, just in case.
I'm sorry?
I actually purchased
sorry?
a shoe from the store. We call them COVID shoes.
Right.
Because you didn't get to wear your shoes for a while and you're embarrassed now
Right,
because
right,
you're
right.
walking and your heel left you, or you purchased it from the store, which I did, and I
Yeah.
went to a wedding, and before the bride could say I do, my heel left me right there in the audience, and I had to MC the wedding too. I was like, I had to rush into the car. Thank God I had a pair of shoes matching, slippers albeit, but let's not take
Right,
away from
right,
that.
right.
We ran out of time.
Right.
But you know we got to have you back because we always have these questions and we didn't get through all of them, sorry to say. But I want to thank you so
Yeah.
much as always, helping people to navigate the system because they need some help and not everyone can always afford an attorney to find ways and means how they can fix their legal problems, especially property and wills, all of the everyday issues that we come across, and land, disputes. Big thing in Barbados. People seem to need some help with. I want to thank you so much for assisting them, helping them fix some of their issues as it relates to these problems. Thank you so much, Mark.
Right. So once again, it was my pleasure, Joya. Nice seeing you again. And thank the team there. And as I said, it was a pleasure assisting.
Can I just ask you one quick favor? Can you just say Happy Multiple Sclerosis Day? Because we are honoring them today during the show. Can you do that?
Yes, I see you wearing your orange, yes. So happy Multiple Sclerosis Day to all. And I wish all who are so afflicted, I wish them better.
Thank you so much. A great note to end on. Thank you, Mark. We'll be back.
Thank you, my pleasure.
After the break. We'll be back.
is that no matter what you do, once you start with a plan, it will get you to the end result that you are trying to achieve. So my first thing would be to create a sustainable budget, and that part is important. We know that prices have increased across the board, whether this is for fresh food, frozen food, whether it's gas. No matter what your basket of goods looks like, you've definitely been paying out a lot more. So why not start by creating a budget to let you see, first of all, how much money you have coming in, what's your revenue like, and then what your expenses are, and where, if anywhere, that can you cut back on some of your expenses. And this is where people tend to generally forget, and I always tell people to write it down. It's better for you to see it, and then sometimes you realize just how much money you spend in some of the areas that you can cut back on. So that's my first recommendation.
Make a list. So most people listening to you right now is saying to you, my expenses exceed my income, so I can't even cut back. I mean, that's hard for some who can't. Is there anything at all that you could say if you had to sit down with an individual like that, who's working for like $300-400 a week and expenses are like $2,500 with 2 children? How do we, my mind can't even wrap around what even to do when that happens.
Yeah, so these are definitely unprecedented times for all of us. And I always tell people there are different buckets of individuals. You have the persons who genuinely don't have any more room to cut anything out of their budget. Their expenses are what they are. Their revenue is what it is. And then we always have the persons who can cut some additional things out of their budget and make adjustments. One of the first things I tell people to do is to take a look at your lifestyle, whatever that may look like. Are you the single mother who has to buy all the goods for your children, support them through school? Are you the single dad doing the same thing? Are you someone who, I always tell people, look at the things to see if there's anything that you're spending money on that is about your lifestyle and not really something that you need. And that's a big differentiation, because sometimes when we write that down on paper, we don't realize just how much is not something that we need or we can do without. So let me just give you an example, right? Right now we are experiencing one of the highest rates for gas, right? And and everybody, whether you are from a lower income bracket up to upper income bracket, is complaining about gas prices. But the reality is the prices are what they are. So what do we do to adjust, right? If you get a group of people and ask them, and from varying income brackets, what have you done differently since gas has gone up? And most persons will tell you, well, there's nothing they can do. They haven't been able to do anything. They just pay the additional money. But is there anyone who is currently carpooling? Is there anyone who's cutting back on the amount of driving that you do? And people always say that that's not realistic.
But Nikita, let me ask you about the carpooling bit. When people tell people to carpool, somebody got to put gas in the car. So everybody then chipping in then to say, it's 5 of you, give me $20 each because I put $100 in here. You still got to pay. People talk about carpooling, but it's not for free. Not in these times. You're getting into somebody else's car. You got to share the load.
But look at it this way, right? Mm-hmm. On average, the average vehicle in Barbados is probably going to take about $180 to fill up all the way to the top, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you have your vehicle and your neighbor next door works in the same area, so we all work in Warrens, let's take for example, right? Why not carpool for the 5 days? It will give my neighbor, let's say, $50 towards gas. My neighbor is going to put in another $50. The other neighbor is going to put in another $50. We up to $150, right? And we make it to work Monday to Friday carpooling. I remember when I was younger, that's one of the things we used to do as a neighborhood, right? So we always had one auntie in the neighborhood who would drop us all down to school because our parents all worked in different areas, and it was a way to save gas. Even as an adult, this is something that I did. I remember being in my first job, and we all lived on the west coast of the island, and we had to get to the office. So we decided, okay, this week is going to be Nikita's week, this week is going to be next person's week, and we will meet and we will carpool. That way, somebody gets a break off of gas or gets a reduced gas bill. And the truth is that there are ways that this can work, and it's as simple as just making a plan for it, right? I have a theory that I personally use, and I recently changed to a hybrid vehicle. So before I changed to a hybrid vehicle, I mandated I would put in $160 in gas every week and no more. Wherever the 160 got me, it got me. If it meant that I could not do extra activities, then so be it. But I'm putting in $160 in gas this week, but everybody's lifestyle is different. What may work for me may not work for someone else. But you have to sit down and strategize. One of the biggest challenges that we have right now is that people are not willing to adjust their lifestyles. We've gotten very familiar, we've gotten very accustomed to what we have and what we do. So we find it very hard, and it's quite natural, it's human nature. We find it very hard to adjust when there are hard times, right? But when you get to the point where you absolutely have no choice, then it becomes even harder to make those changes, which is something I always tell people. So like, for example, groceries, right? Just the other day, I love to bathe with Dove soap. That's my favorite soap to bathe with. Just my preference. However, Dove soap is one of the more expensive soaps. When you take a look at a bar Dove is about $3.99. Right now, Lifebuoy is $2.25. Right now, Protex is about $2.09. So I've decided to make a shift in what I buy, and that even applies to our grocery basket. When you ask people, okay, the grocery bill is going up, what's happening? I've heard many persons complain about the price of Tide, for example. I made a shift for stop using Tide to use something else that has just a good effect for washing my clothes as Tide, but is much cheaper. We don't always want to or wish to make those changes, and that's where it becomes very difficult for a lot of persons. We had the VAT-free day last year, and if nothing else, it should have been a good exercise in identifying for anyone what are the zero-rated goods that are available in Barbados. What are the things where I do not have to pay that 17.5%? And that's something that I always tell people to try to be aware of. You can
a lot of people picked up the things. A lot of people picked up the things that already didn't have a trap VAT on it, and they did not know, and that is sad. But when you talk about shifting, and I get that, but I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, gosh, all the time poor people, middle class people can't catch a break. It's we have to make the adjustment. Nobody's saying, and I said this to the president of the Chamber of Commerce, I believe last week Friday. If I'm shopping in the supermarket, and all of us shopping in the supermarket, and we're making you rich, wealthy, the cost of living has gone up, especially for food. Forget all the other stuff that are not necessities, but food. You're saying that you can't look at your profit, if it's 10 million, and say, you know what, let me cushion my customers, maybe by 4 million. I can still make $6 million, but I'm not gonna pass on this cost because my freight has gone up, the taxes and whatever, and it's gonna cost me about 4 million. So let me absorb that 4 million for the sake of people like you and me and Peter Arlene and everybody who's shopping. But no, they don't do that. They continue to take from you, and we, because we ain't got no choice, we continue to buy. I think it is unfair that if I was rich and people made me rich, and it was for necessity like food, you're telling me that I can't for a second say, let me, for 1 year, help my customers by not passing on this money, because they would not have this money if it was not for us. That's one big issue I have as it relates to people managing their finance, because I think you said it's about us making the adjustment. I'm wondering, can't we all together make the adjustment, the wealthy and us? What are your thoughts about that concept, that setup?
Well, I understand your perspective. However, I don't necessarily 100% agree. Okay. And I do think that there are things that businesses can do to help their customers, especially in hard times. And I think a number of businesses have done a few things during COVID, especially at the start of COVID, in order to help their customers. But at the end of the day, I always think about this from the perspective from all different size businesses. When you get the mom and pop stores, they're making a profit. They're all the little mini marts in the districts, they're all making a profit. That's how they're able to keep their doors open. Do we ask the same thing of the mom and pop stores that we do of the big supermarkets, for example? For me, a business is just that. It's a business. It's there to generate revenue and it's there to generate profits. And the reason why those businesses are also there is that we tend to sometimes forget about the employees of that business. Once businesses don't meet their targets, and that target is not breaking even, there is no businessman, small, medium, or large, that is looking to break even for their business. Every single businessman or businesswoman is looking to make profits. Those profits are what feed into the hands and mouths of those employees as well. And that's something that we sometimes need to remember as well. So it's not just about them making profits, it's about them ensuring that there's an economic cycle to it. They keep their staff members on. There are many supermarkets during COVID that took on a lot of the employees who were let go from other industries. And because of that, obviously their expenses would have increased. And that's something that I think we have to think about. But I do agree that there probably is more that they could do. I can't think possibly of a business that's going to say, I'm making $10 million in profit and I'm okay with 6 million, so I'm going to absorb and
But Nikita, I'm talking about we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I'm talking about there is a pandemic. This is the extreme. I'm not talking about the regular whatever. I'm saying we are in deep doo-doo right now, the entire world, okay? So you can't tell me that you can't for a second not think about somebody like that in this case. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about more about finances and what you can do to stretch your dollar in this day and age when we come back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're speaking with NIKITA GIBSON, Associate Actuary and VP Clarity Insurance, and we're talking finance. And before the break, we have difference of opinion here. NIKITA says she understands where I'm coming from, and she mentioned some things about the mom and pop shop, and they don't do things like that in terms of what I'm requesting. But I also then, said I'm not talking about your everyday. I'm speaking about these times. Pandemic, perhaps they can consider that, because when you mention to me about profits, I'm saying you're still making a profit. I'm just asking to cut into your profit a little bit, because in the Bible when it said your cup runneth over, Kadir, when your cup runneth over, what spill over, help the people on the spills and keep what's inside of the cup. So what's inside of the cup could feed the owner of the supermarket and keep people employed. The spillover, I'm just saying, look, $10 million in profit, you could still make $6 million, absorb 4. It's a pandemic. And the difference between the supermarkets and the mom and pop shops that I had to note when you mentioned that they don't do that, a mom and pop shop, you could go and trust from where you live in the neighborhood. We still do that. Bajans can still go to a shop in the village and get bread and get food and don't have to pay a cent until the end of the month, they still could trust. That still happens. I know that for a fact. Not the bigger supermarkets. So they don't make a big profit. And imagine a man that don't have much can still trust the people in the neighborhood. I just feeling like if financing and the money and everything that is happening, greed has a lot to do with that. What do you think about that in terms of finances and greed?
So I don't necessarily see it as greed, and maybe that's because and just so it's clear, I do not work for any of the supermarkets, whether mom and pop or any of the large establishments. However, in my perspective, you talk about the fact that, the owners can still live off of and eat off of 6 million versus 10 million, right? That's the given. However, what people fail to realize is that businesses don't just have one owner. The reality is that shareholders expect a return on capital. It's the same way for my friends that you're going to open a mom and pop store in your neighborhood or our neighborhood, and I give you $5,000 along with the rest of our friends to open this shop. We're going to expect a return on capital, and, on top of the fact that the store still has to be able to maintain itself. All the expenses, whether it's salaries, whether it is the goods that the store will be selling, etc. So there's a lot that goes into it. And there's another element when it comes to business and business planning as well that people tend to forget. Businesses always, they keep some profit in what you may call a provision or a reserve, just in case times are not always as good as they are currently for some businesses, right? There are businesses that would have gone through the pandemic and they were closed during it, or they generally got very, very low returns. Some persons even experienced losses. And the truth is that profits tend to prop up businesses during those times. So let's say that the supermarket makes a $10 million profit this year. Next year, they make another 10 million. But the year after that, there's some economic conditions or something that occurs that cause them to make a loss. Now, what they're going to do is that they're going to count on their reserves and the profits that they have earned or retained over the previous years in order to maintain their doors being open. And their doors being open facilitates all the employees that are there that go and they spend their money in the same store, they spend their money in the mom and pop stores, and they prop up a lot of other economic shops within the country. So for me, there's always other sides to the picture or other views to take into account. I do think that there is more that can be done, though. So it's not to say or discredit what you're saying. I definitely agree with you. But I understand the perspective from the business side of things, that there are other factors to take into consideration before you make that mass decision about passing on to your customers. So let's take one supermarket, for example. There's a supermarket I'm aware of. And one of the things that they did during the pandemic was that they teamed up with the Rotary Club of Barbados South, for example, and they actually gave back to over 20 or so families, and that was from monies that they actually gave in the supermarket. And this is the Chanel supermarket brand, for example, and they gave back over a course of period of months to multiple families in Barbados, and it was beyond food items, right? So they would have helped out people with their homes, people, a lot of persons during COVID could not pay their debts or their bills. So there are things that supermarkets do, and that's just one of the many examples that would have occurred during COVID. But in terms of a supermarket handing over such a large percentage of their profit, I don't necessarily think is realistic for them as well as the community that they are helping or that they're residing. But yes, there is more that can be done. One thing that I always tell people, how many persons in Barbados actually shop by coupon? It's a big thing in the US. Everybody has coupons or a coupon book. I know Cost Less brings out their coupon or their reduced price booklet. Persons, I know Massey does it as well. But how many people actually use those when they're going to the supermarket? We've gotten really accustomed to just going into the supermarket, putting what we want in our trolleys or our baskets and heading to checkout. And not taking the rest of it into account. So whether it's the individual or the business, there are multiple aspects to this financing, to this budgeting, and to working through this current difficult period. And this period is difficult for everybody, for the individual, the mom and pop store, and the large businesses. No one is escaping this current economic depression. Okay.
You see, with the giving, and I'm for that, of course, and I certainly don't want to say anything negative to any companies that give, because I go out there and ask on behalf of other people, so don't get me wrong. I think it's fantastic that they do, and I encourage them to continue to give. But there are some companies that supply a lot of essentials to a wider section of Barbadians. So when they do the photo op and they give a basket and they do whatever to 2 or 3 families, I'm saying that that's great, but there are a lot of other people, I feel, I can't tell them how to spend their money, that spent their money with you, that perhaps would need a little blight, a little, you know, a little ease, together with what government can do. Because again, with the Chamber of Commerce, and that was an interesting conversation, the Barbados Chamber of Commerce's president was saying that they're having a lot of discussions on all different levels to see how best we can help Barbadians. And he said it's not a one thing. So when I threw the supermarket thing at him, which I believe can happen, maybe not to the extent that I'm saying, but can happen, he also talked about the port and the taxes. But we also talked about the average person, which we will bring back now to you, and how we can manage our own expenses and make that juggle. So I think he's right with the combination of you taking personal responsibility and seeing how best you can manage your money with the little bit you have. The government then says, look, I can tweak a little bit here at the port with these goods and services. But then the businessman says, here's what I can do at my store. And everybody sits down, and it's a win-win situation, I believe, for everybody. But we can't just talk about it. We got to do something about it. Which then leads me now to the next question about when a person gets retrenched, there's limited money. What's the first thing you would advise that they pay for first, to say, look, I need to keep, maybe it's a mortgage, I don't know, they have a car, they have a mortgage, they need food, they have light, they don't have enough money, but you just lost your job. What would you advise for them to make sure they go to, who do they go to first?
Okay. So I'll give you my retrenchment plan, and I encourage persons to have their own personal retrenchment plan. You know, just in case, you never know what happens. My first thing, the car. The first thing, off the bat, don't worry about making car payments. You can always get a new car or a used car when you find a new job. Get rid of the car. Okay.
Really? The car?
Huge asset you don't need. Get rid of the car. Right.
Ooh.
My next thing, if you're someone who has a mortgage, you're unable to make those payments, only make partial payments. The first mistake people make when they lose their job and they're unable to pay their debts is that they do not communicate with their financial institution, and that is mistake number 1. Okay, that's actually the first thing you should do. Call up the bank, call up the credit union, explain your situation, let them know this is what has happened. Here is your plan of action. To ensure that you continue to make payments. However, is there anything on their end that they can do to assist you at this point in time? And I think a lot of people actually did that during COVID, and this was apart from the moratoriums that would have been given. So you can request your bank to take a look at your debts to see if there's any restructuring that can be done. And what that means is they can extend the period of your loan. They could also look at reducing the interest rate on it just to help you to reduce that monthly payment that you may have. Another thing for persons who have homes, and this was a plan that I made for myself, I always told myself that if for whatever reason I can't afford my mortgage, you know, the process of getting a house is a lot more challenging than you replacing your car. So I always told myself that if I got to that point and I absolutely needed to, I would put my house on the market for rent. Okay? And I will rent my home out. And if I could, I would go back to my family home, contribute to that household on a smaller basis as compared to my rent, or you know, if you have family that allow you to be able to just get back on your feet while you stay with them, or alternatively, you rent out your home and then you rent someplace that is significantly less than your mortgage. It would obviously require you adjusting to a new environment, adjusting to it. And you can even set up a lease that maybe is a 6-month lease, you know, so that you can start small. So when you do catch yourself back, that you can move back into your home. And this is just an effort for you not to lose that asset, not to lose your home while you're going through a difficult time. As it relates to everything else, I always tell people the first thing you do, drop all of your discretionary expenses. No more getting your hair done, your nails done, going to to the reduce your barber visits, lashes, whatever other treatments you do. And just so it's clear, you must be able to find a balance as well between the things that make you feel good about yourself and your mental health, as well as trying to reduce your expenses. So I always tell people to maybe consider finding one thing that you keep that does make you feel good, or makes you feel as though, okay, all right, everything is going to be okay. Keep that one thing, but reduce or remove all those other discretionary expenses. Once you've done that, then we'll work on the variable expenses, which are things like your utilities, your grocery bills, etc. Now might be a time for you to assess and change brands. You might want to go from Dove to Protect, for example. You might want to go from Barilla pasta to just spaghetti. So there are different changes and shifts that you can make, but it all starts with you sitting down, having an honest conversation with yourself, and then determining where to go. And of course, as a part of any retrenchment exercise will be you getting back out there into the job market. But in the meantime, are there any skill sets that you have that you can earn money from? You know, we've definitely gone through the virtual space, the virtual workspace. You know, so are there any online jobs that you can pick up, where you can just pick up a couple hours here or there every week? Just something enough to sustain you from 1 month to the next. And that's ideally what you're looking for in the beginning, while you continue to look for that new job to replace the one that you would have lost, you know, that new income. So those are the tips I generally give to people.
I can hear some women, I can hear some ladies now saying, don't you go touching my eyelashes or my nails, you know, or my hair. And funny enough, on a funny note, but a serious note still, when I got retrenched, the first thing I wanted to save was my medical insurance, because I was on group and I have 1 month to convert with myself and my daughter. And I looked at it this way: this is going to stress me out not having a job. And I have no money, so let me keep my medical insurance in case the stress decides to, you know, impact me medically, and let the insurance company pay for the doctors. And so people I told that to thought it was kind of funny when I said, you know, but it's true. Your health is so important. The car ain't gonna help you, maybe, and not, because you don't even need to, you can't drive to the doctor if you're sick, if you're that bad. So you can ask for some help, but certainly in my opinion, and what I did, I should say, it may not be for everybody, because everybody don't have medical insurance, but I found it was important to go there first. And I agree with you about calling everybody. I did. When I got retrenched, I didn't get through to one individual, and you left messages to call them back, and then they kind of came down on you for not communicating with them, and thank God you were able to show proof. So I want to thank you so much. I'm going to give you final words at you, because we do have to wrap up. And I also don't know if we can put it up on the screen. You do have an Instagram page that people can visit, My 2 Cents, to get some information there. So I'll leave final words with you.
First of all, thank you for having me. But I would say that no matter what the situation is, no matter where you are, no matter what income you are making at this time, make a plan. Whatever you do with that plan, and work your way through all the steps to get to your end result. You're not alone. And to everybody, whether it's individual, the mom and pop shops, or the large businesses, we are all in this together, and we need to be able to help each other get through the next phase, towards a non-COVID environment, a non-pandemic environment, where we are back to where we want to be in terms of everyone seeing growth. So I wish everybody well. And just remember as well, there's a very thin line between your finances and your mental health. So I 100% agree with keeping things like health insurance and life insurance as you can, and just making sure you find that one thing that just keeps you and gives you peace while you're going through these hard times. You know, just stick to it. Stick to the plan.
And I agree with you. I totally do. And again, being ill and not having money, you know, that combination, or your children not well, you don't have any money, it could take its toll on you, seriously. And a lot of people don't really seem to understand that. I find that in our society, I don't think we are as caring as we can be of recent. I think it's every man for himself type of attitude. I'm seeing more so, I'm not saying right across, but more so. People are just tired. So I want, if you can put it up on the screen, but how do we find you? If we can't, it's called My Two Cents. How do we find you on Instagram?
You can find me at my2cents.bb.
.bb. Oh, here we have it. Okay, 156 posts, and we can learn everything there. And I'm sharing my knowledge for free to help you financially succeed. Okay, I'm just going through it. Okay, wow. Those of you watching, this is free, and this is good. You see, you're my type of person now. You're out there trying to help. This is what I'm talking about. Making sure that people get some sort of assistance. Not everybody can pay for everything. But I do understand that the economy needs money in order to function. I get that. I just want to see a greater balance. Thank you so much, Nikita. We put that out there, my2cents.bb. You can find Nikita and YouTube as well.
Yes, please.
Well, you go, girl, and you're gonna go places, I can tell, in terms of bigger. But you would. Anybody who puts that out there, especially now in these difficult times, and you're trying to help people navigate financially, the sky's the limit. So continue to do what you're doing, and we support you 100%. I may have to go on your page because I tell people I can't even balance my own checkbook, and that's true. So I do need help in terms of, I've started navigating a little bit and looking at cell phones and usage, light bill, what I can conserve, certainly water bill. I've tried to speak to my landlord, but he's no budging there in terms of the rent. So thank you so much again, okay?
No problem. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. When we come back, we will be speaking with Mr. Wayne Norville, and he is going to talk to us about animal cruelty when we come back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. Our last segment, we will be joined by Chief Inspector of the Barbados Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, BSPCA, Mr. Wayne Norville. Highlights, something that is difficult to watch when we see pictures of animals not eaten, or people starving them or hitting them. Things like that rubs me the wrong way. And Mr. Norville is going to share with us some of the day-to-day things that he experiences in his practice, and how we can fix some of these problems as it relates to our animals. Good morning, Mr. Wayne Norville, and welcome to Face It and Fix It.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Here.
How are you doing?
Very good. I'm very good.
First of all, I want to shout out to my godmother, Janice Osborne. She has a little puppy, a little dog, not puppy, called Hunter. And Hunter is her child. There are people in this country, let me say this before we get into the cruelty of animals, that have so much love and respect for their animals that they even treat them better than some human beings. My godmother happens to be one of them, and she treats Hunter like her son. So kudos to the people who show respect and love to animals. Now let's talk about cruelty to animals, the other side to things. What do we see in Barbados now Because I know many years ago, people would call it a step-in retriever, and everybody would see the dogs out on the streets and the garbage and looking very skeletal. What do we see now? And is it a big problem in this country?
First, let me say the majority of problems that we have now are not from stray dogs. The biggest problem we have are people's dogs who are allowed to roam. Now, when we talk about cruelty, there are different aspects of cruelty. You could have neglect, you could have outright cruelty where a person just doesn't like a dog or any animal and will do anything to maim them or hurt them. Then there's the person that loves animals so much that they're more like fanatics. They will collect dogs and cats, hoard them. Their main thing is that they are taking the animal off the street. But true in fact, they're harming the animal more than anything else because they can't afford to look after all those animals. So they find themselves in a problem. That's not the only problem that creates. It's your neighbor. You would have a neighbor that doesn't have cats, but the neighbor's cat goes into her yard or into her garden or into her gallery and use her plant pots as a toilet. Now, if that person is annoyed with what is going on, especially if you've spoken to the owner already, then they might take matters into their own hands. So the animal is paying for the responsibility of the owner. When we talk about cruelty, we have to start at the beginning. If you're going to acquire a dog, there's so many things that have to go into it first. One, you have to have a secure environment for your dog. Now, a dog has 4 legs. If it dig under the fence, it could go anywhere it wants to go. Your car has 4 wheels. Your car has an alarm, is locked inside, a gate, more than likely, and you could hear if the engine starts. But you have everything there to protect the car, but not the dog. And the dog is supposed to be the person to alert you that your car is being stolen. But the fact is that the car can't move without somebody driving it. The dog can. So securing your dog is very important. Now, if you're going to have, if you do get a dog, you should try to find out first about what type of dog it is. What are the characteristics of the dog? These are things because they can help you. Now, if you have a garden, you don't want to take home a terrier because basically all terriers dig. That's what they are bred to do, dig. Other than if you can train your terrier not to dig. So you go and get a terrier and then you complain. You bring it to the RSPCA, you say, man, all this dog do is dig. But you have a terrier. That's what it dig. So it is important for you to learn about the particular dog that you want. You don't go and get a dog. No, you know that you're only 5 feet. You go and get a dog that is nearly the same height as you and you expect to be able to control it. Only if you've had some form of training, then you and that dog becomes a calamity. You can't walk it because obviously you can't control it. So what do? It jumps upon you every time you go in the yard. You can't do anything about it. So this is what will happen. You will take the dog, tie it to a makeshift kennel. If you do have one, you merely take food and water to that dog. So there and then, the dog is not being dog is not being socialized. It doesn't know how to react around people, stuff like that. So now the dog is getting too much for you. So, man, I can throw away this dog. I don't want this dog no more. I can get another dog. So what happens is, take the dog out somewhere in the country and release it. There's so many things that could happen to that dog before it actually dies. One, it doesn't know the terrain, so it could fall into a well. Two, it doesn't know the terrain, so it could try crossing the road and get knocked down. Three, the dog will always try to find somewhere where it is comfortable, where it feels comfortable. So if it should hear dogs barking, it will gravitate to that area where the dogs are. Now, the person that have the dogs, they come out and they see a dog out there. It's not their dog. They don't want it around there. So some of them might call the animal control center, or they might call the RSPCA to have the dog removed. But some might decide to take matters into their own hands. When you release a dog in an area that it doesn't know, how is it going to get food? It now has to learn the area to see where it could get something. So more than likely, it will starve to death. Dogs are different to cats. A cat is more independent. A cat can eat a lizard.
Let me just
or
warn
eat a
our
mouse.
viewers. Let me just say to some of our viewers that some of these images might be a little disturbing for some. They are for me, of some dogs, obviously some animals that clearly have not been fed for a long time. So let me just let our viewers know that. Continue.
Yes. Now, when you abandon a dog, as I said before, there are so many things that could go wrong. But the main thing is that that animal is out there in an area unknown. It is cold. It is because if it was accustomed to being treated properly, then you wouldn't have the situation where it knows how to be not fed. It knows it doesn't know how to cope with what is going on there. At the end of the day, that dog will probably starve to death.
But let me ask you this, Wayne. If you're saying these things that they would probably starve to death, is there a law against cruelty to animals in this country that you can be fined or arrested when people commit these types of actions?
Yeah. There are laws. We have laws for ZRs too. We have laws for everything, but listen the laws. You see, in a situation with animals, if I have a dog that food, give it a little water, but I am not claiming that dog. It is now, people would say, oh, it's a village dog. No one will take responsibility for that dog. But if that dog decides, if that dog should bite someone, everybody says it's not my dog, right? Now, if that dog was registered, properly registered and microchipped, then the owner of that dog would obviously be responsible. So, if we have proper licensing techniques, it makes it easier for us to control the population of dogs in Barbados, and that is something that we need to do. Animals, go ahead.
We have a quick question here, because I know time's just running away from us. How many dogs have you found in wells? They want to know. If you find animals.
You mean in my career?
Well, recently in your career. Lately, more lately, I should say.
Too many. Too many for me to remember. Too many.
So
sometimes I get calls for wells 3 times a week, twice a week, sometimes 2 or 3 well calls in one day.
So if I saw my neighbor, if I see my neighbor, he has a dog tied and not feeding the dog or anything like that, I call you, I call the organization, or I call the police. Who do I call?
The RSPCA. You call the RSPCA.
The RSPCA.
The thing is, complaints are complex. You could, a person would call and say, man, my neighbor got a dog, you don't feed it. Bad, right? And but they will warn me, man, don't, that man is a grown man, don't carry police with you when you going. But, you know, I have learned over the years that having a peaceful conversation with someone, even if the person tends to be violent to other people, the object is to make sure that that person feels comfortable talking to you. Now, what I would do, what I usually do, because it is simple. You go to a person's house and you don't know what conditions the owner of the dog is living under. You don't know if the person could afford to feed the dog. So you must strike up a conversation with them, you know. But before you ask them anything about the dog, you have to break the ice. So if the person has the most beautiful, fully kept car, you compliment them on the car. And then you ask them, how many times a day or week you clean the car? They say, well, you know, I clean this every day. But then I ask him, so if somebody stole your car, who would you blame? Well, we blame him, he should have barked. But how the dog could bark if he's scratching? You can't do the two things together. So if the dog is not free of parasites like ticks and fleas, if the dog is not wormed, you know, then your dog is no use to you to guard your pretty car. But getting back to where who you're supposed to call on complaints. When you do call me, most people work that I go to their houses. So when I get there, most of the time they're not at home. So you have to leave some sort of correspondence there to let them know, well, I was there and I need to speak to you about the condition of the dog. You might see a bad looking dog in the yard. You might pass and see it, so you don't know of the history of the dog. But every dog that is looking bad is not the fault of the owner. You could have a dog that's looking bad because if it has tick fever, it's not going to put on anyway. So these are things that I have to find out first before I could ask. You could start, you know, getting down on the person.
But the person shouldn't take the. But if that person sees a dog losing weight, they shouldn't take the dog to a vet. If they can't afford it, is there free service that they can go to have the dog looked at?
No, well, there are no free services in Barbados anymore. What we do at the RSPCA is try to keep the bill down because, you know, we are a charity and we don't get an awful lot of money from the government.
Okay.
So that person, yes, the person needs to, should see something is wrong because he knows he's feeding the dog. But it is just that because of what the dog is suffering from, he might not know. But again, I usually ask people, but if you don't know anything about your car, don't you seek advice? There are numerous people in Barbados that could advise you on what is going wrong. All you need to do is, I find, like human being, like Barbarians, like have sickness, even with the animal, they have sickness too. They will tell you, oh, ma, I feed the dog every day, ma, you know. But
do you know what is the punishment for what is the fine, if what it ranges from, if you are caught and found guilty of being cruel to an animal in this country?
It is $2,500, 6 months in prison, or both.
Have you had to? I know I saw a couple of stories a couple months ago, probably maybe before COVID or just about when it started. I believe one was about a horse and the other was about monkeys as well. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, remind me, Wayne, I think they caught fire the monkey, or they did something to it publicly.
Something like that. Yeah.
They had to face the courts. I don't know if it's sub judice. Well, let's not discuss that. But let's just speak in general then, that if people are caught publicly harming animals, anything, any animal, then of course then the police can be called in and they can be fined or imprisoned. There's a call coming in. Our WhatsApp, good day is, okay, there's a WhatsApp, my apologies, good day. Is there anything the RSPCA can do if a tenant has been evicted and instead of leaving, they brought a dog on property when dogs are not allowed?
If so, they leave the dog when they move.
Yes, okay. Yeah, basically that's what it sounds like. They leave the
Right.
dog.
Well, but that you see, that's abandonment. But the problem is that you don't know where the owner of the dog has gone to live, so you can't track them down unless somebody could tell you exactly where that person has gone to live, so you could track them down. You know, but the thing is, if that dog is not registered, the person could easily say, "Well, die my dog."
And just leave it there.
Leave it there.
Well,
You
Mark,
understand?
we got to wrap up again. I'll give you 1 minute, some final words. This is short and people are asking, and we need to definitely bring you back because I haven't covered half of what I want to as it relates to animal cruelty. So final words at you.
What I would like to see in Barbados is that the powers that be get serious about animal cruelty, because it is not only the animal that suffers, your neighbor suffers, your children suffers. And unhealthy, you can't have a healthy house with unhealthy animals.
Okay, well, I certainly want to thank you for those closing words. And again, I'm going to ask you if you will join us again sometime in the future, in the near future, to continue this discussion about cruelty to animals. I can tell you there are a lot of people in Barbados who feel strongly about this and probably believe that more should be done in terms of the punishment when it comes to interfering with and killing and maiming innocent animals. So I want to thank you so much, and I hope that you will come back again. I believe you will, because we're extending
Yes,
the
I will.
invitation here publicly right now to you to do a part two to this.
That's
I want to
all right.
thank you. Thank you so much, Wayne.
You're
Thank you. All right.
Thanks for having me. All right,
Thank you.
bye.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Face It and Fix It. On Friday, we will have Ministry of Transport and Works and Water Resources. We're going to have some officials coming from that ministry. And again, it's going to be Green Climate Friday, 5 C's. We're going to talk about climate change, and we will be coming near the trees and the giveaways that we want you to have some dwarf trees coming up soon as well. Also, Dr. Kirk Douglas will be here. He will be speaking about monkeypox, that virus that everybody's talking about. I believe it's not as bad as COVID, but again, people are tired of the viruses, but this one has just popped up. And what we do need to know is how do we keep it away from Barbados to start with? And if for God knows some reason it reaches our shores, then we will need to know what to do. So Dr. Kirk Douglas will be here with us to discuss that. I hope you had some good information. I hope you're able to face some of the problems and fix them. Don't run away from it. Take a little break sometimes, but you got to face your issues and you got to fix them. And we're here to help you as much as we possibly can. So tune in on Friday again. We're going to be here and we're going to talk about climate change, as I said. Ministry of Transport and Works, Water Resources will be here as well, and Dr. Kirk Douglas. I'll see you on Friday. I'm Joanne Haigh. God bless.